Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight, and it is a terrible day.
Oh no.
Here on Screams After Midnight, because we went through a roller coaster of emotions with this film that we're about to talk about today. This is a horror movie podcast, of course. I am Peter. I'm joined, as always, by Tim.
I want the baby Johnny.
With that mustache, Tim, that's something you should be saying. So we're going to talk about Rumpelstiltskin from 1995. This movie was a vote winner every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Our patrons at $5 and up get to vote between four films, not three, four. And this was the winner. The theme for this vote was knockoff. So this was a Leprechaun sort of a knockoff, and then there was a Nightmare on Elm Street knockoff and a Chucky knockoff. There was a bunch of knockoffs. And Rumpelstiltskin won. And we went through a roller coaster of emotions because we couldn't find this movie. This won, and then we went, oh no, we can't find it. It's not available to stream. It's not available to buy a used DVD anywhere, at least not for a reasonable human price. And luckily we did eventually get it. We thought we were going to have to do some sort of makeup vote as a result, but luckily one of our audience members came through and we were able to get a hold of it. And that sounds like a lot.
God bless him.
That's a lot of effort for this movie. I'm just going to put that out there first of all. That's a lot of effort for this
Interesting
piece of media. Is this going to be one of these Leprechaun style reviews where you sit and praise it like it's a masterpiece for like 40 minutes to an hour?
I mean, I'm not gonna. We'll wait and see. I'll let you know what I think. What I think it.
Rumpelstiltskin, of course, and I was not familiar with Rumpelstiltskin as I was watching this on stream, and someone had to explain to me what the typical Rumpelstiltskin rules were, which is that it wants to steal babies. It will grant you a wish, and then unless you can say his name,
you have to guess his name.
You have to guess his name, and that will break the curse. Otherwise, he's taking your firstborn. So my first statement would be that for a creature where that's the rules, for how it can take its prize, its firstborn, is the parent mustn't guess its name. It seems to like yelling its name around a lot. I'm just going to say that now. It felt like he was proudly saying his name.
He tells her early on that that she has to guess, but once she gets it wrong, like all bets are off.
Oh, that's how it works.
Yeah. I don't think you get unlimited guesses, or at least in this case, he felt justified enough once she got it wrong that he was like, okay.
I was going to say full spoilers here because no one cares about spoiling
what
Rumpelstiltskin. But I just want to say, but in the end, she defeats it by saying his name like multiple times.
With some hay.
What's up? That's true. Okay, we'll go with it. So the premise here, of course, is quite simple. Rumpelstiltskin, like centuries ago, tried to do his whole baby stealing nonsense, and they defeated him, and a sorceress turned him into like a rock, essentially. And present day 1995, even though the film looks like it was shot in the mid-80s, but it's present day 1995, and this young mother who just lost her husband. We'll get into that scene in a minute. Don't worry about that. I want to talk about that scene. She's in there with a friend, and they're in this antique shop, and they find this rock, and she buys it because she's drawn to it. And of course, it grants her a wish of seeing her dead husband, which means
she cries on it.
Because she cries on it. The tears are what activates it, and this brings the Rump back to prime time, and she now has to deal with this Rump trying to get to her baby John as it's just like Terminator. She's trying to protect her son John.
Exactly.
There's even a motorbike scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's actually, I would say the majority of this movie might be a chase scene.
Is in fact, when we get to my thoughts, I'll say that I was shocked at how much this movie was spent on the road and chase sequences. It's funny actually. I was cracking Terminator jokes there, but I actually just realised that when I was watching this a couple of nights ago, I was cracking Terminator jokes, but for different reasons. So I'm actually now realising that this is more of a. We've said this was a Leprechaun knockoff. It's actually more of a Terminator knockoff than it is anything else.
It could be. Yeah.
There was a lot of imagery in the movie that I was making Terminator jokes about, and now that I'm talking about, we're saving her child called John, I'm like, wait a minute, this is Terminator, but
well,
sure.
You borrow from the greats, you know.
Yes. So I guess we're at the point where I'm going to ask the question, Tim.
Yeah.
What is your opinion, dare I ask, of one Rumpelstiltskin?
I love this movie. It's I think it's fantastic. It's one of my favorite subgenres of horror, which is like the fairy tale but evil subgenre.
Oh, so you're a fan of Darkness Falls? Is that what you're telling me? You like Darkness Falls?
Nah, well, that one they don't really do it as well in that, but I do like the concept, I suppose. But I mean, like, this Leprechaun, Pinocchio's Revenge, which I'm sure we'll do someday. All great examples.
Don't you promise things! Don't you dare promise things like that! With no staff meeting.
But yeah, this is I think this is so much fun, and it's a shame that it's not widely available. I know I watched this on I streamed it somewhere, like, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, so I'm surprised that it's so hard to get now. But I don't know, hopefully like something like Vinegar Syndrome or Arrow or something will put out like a nice Blu-ray edition at some point, because this is a movie that has to be seen. There's honestly parts of this movie where I don't remember like the last time I laughed so hard. Like I posted the scene like on pretty much like everywhere yesterday, but the scene of him on the motorcycle when he wipes out, like, I straight up laughed for like 5 minutes straight. I thought it was so funny. But yeah, no, I won't pretend that it's like amazingly made or anything, but I think in terms of like bad movies, this is like a cheesy bad that is so much fun to watch.
Oh, and I'm doing some live editing.
Okay.
I'm doing some live editing. That's far too big. Let's make that smaller there. Right, there we go. There we go. Oh, that's still too big. That's still too big. Tim.
Yeah.
Right, there we go. There we go. This is going to be on the screen now.
Hell yeah.
For the rest of
I'll
this.
stand by it.
Right, Tim's quote here. This movie needs to be seen.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those ones where if you try to describe it to people, they'll think like you're certifiable. It's like, all right, yeah, so y'all know the story about Rumpelstiltskin, but do you know the story about how he gets turned into a stone, and then in 1990s Los Angeles, there's a cop who dies in a gunfight, and then his wife is so sad she cries on the stone and brings it back to life so that they can have sex one last time, which then makes Rumpelstiltskin come to try to steal their baby.
It makes Rumpelstiltskin come? What?
Hell yeah. Oh, I'm sure he was watching for sure. I don't know if
actually, I would argue technically Rumpelstiltskin might have been the husband in this scene. He might have actually been the one she was having sex with.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing too, and I was kind of wondering like, which is a shame, because if that is the case, it does make him like a little creepy, which sucks because I think you are supposed to be on. Well, I think you are supposed to be on his side most of the time, because like if you think about it, it is kind of about capitalism, the movie, because you basically have this worker, who performs his duties. He has a contract that he fulfills, and then his quote unquote employer, who is of course they're always white, decides to negate on their contract and then tries to kill him instead of fulfilling the payment that they promised. So you can definitely make an allegory about that.
I hate you right now. This is exactly what they want. See, when they voted for this movie, when they almost unanimous, there was like one vote or maybe two that weren't for Rumpelstiltskin. This is what they were hoping for. They were hoping for your delirious, weird hot takes and my reaction to said hot takes. This is what they were hoping for, and I hate that you're giving it to them. You're giving it to them on a silver platter.
I mean, I think you got to give them more credit. I think they just knew that it was a good movie that we should watch.
Oh yeah. The new excellence when they see it, do they? Okay, so let's work through the movie as it is. Which
okay.
All right, so there's a flashback at the start. We could kind of just gloss over that, but unless there's some hot take you've got on the flashback.
No, it was I think it was a nice way to set up who Rumpelstiltskin is.
Yeah. So because what I want to talk about is the death of the husband, right? The
tragic.
Right. So there's some banter with him and his partner in the cop car. They kind of set him up like he's going to be the main character. So fair play. I actually thought he was going to stick around, and the whole idea is that when they stop for the partner to go get like coffee or something like that, he's just outside the car. He's waiting, and a random.
Now, did you catch this? But I'm pretty sure that he says his partner's name is John.
Let me see, hon. Detective Ben. You would assume it'd be in the cast list here.
I believe
I think you're right. Yeah, John McCabe. Is that him?
John McCain.
McCabe, not McCain.
Oh, McCabe. Yes, I mean that's isn't it strange that the baby is like inevitably named after the partner instead of the husband that died?
Yeah, given that he died, because that's the whole thing of the scene is that they're bantering about what they're going to name his son, and his partner has these wacky ideas.
He has to be named after a flower.
Yes,
for some reason. And
the wife is like joking over the phone. This is the thing. So he's on the phone to his wife when he's doing this. He's got was it a cell phone? Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
it was 1995.
90s
right?
Cell phone.
Yeah, midnight cell phone. He's on a cell phone talking to his wife, and as he's doing this, randomly, just over down the street, a woman's getting into her car from the store. With her, and she's got a baby. She puts the baby in the car first. Some random dude comes up, just pulls out a gun and says, "Give me the car, bitch!" Right? It's just it's just out of nowhere, really random. Doesn't feel natural at all. And
spoken like a dude that's never been to Los Angeles.
fair point. But it's really stilted the way he goes up and just asks suddenly for this, and she just starts crying, "Please let me take my baby. You can have the car. Just let me take my baby." And he's really like, shut up, bitch. Blah, blah, blah. That's what it is, right? And this is where the cinematic quality of this film really kicks into high gear, because
I love that they're not shy about the slow motion.
They're definitely not shy. That is, if anything, I would say they're overzealous with the slow motion, because as soon as this kicks in, we see like the phone drop from his hand in slow motion. He runs towards the slow motion, pulling out his gun. And I mean, I'll give it this. I laughed a lot, because what happens here is that he gets to him. He's got his gun out on the bad guy. The bad guy's not even pointing his gun at him, and our cop lets him turn and point his gun at him, and he's not even distracted by the baby yet, because what ultimately gets him killed is that he sees the baby in the front of the car and has like a weird "I'm going to be a father" moment, and he freezes, and this is where the bad guy shoots him. But what really made me like, so this is all in slow motion. I want to make this really clear that everything that happens in this moment is slow motion. He's going down, he gets hit in slow motion, he's going down in slow motion, all slow motion. But that doesn't just happen once. This is what makes this hilarious, is that okay, I get that you were distracted for a second and you got shot, but you only get shot in like the shoulder. This is not a dying wound, right? He's still got the gun in his hand, and somehow.
Also, like, important to point out that this is a white cop in the U.S. I don't think he's gonna be too hesitant with shooting someone.
Yeah, I mean, to make a little satirical jab there, yes, I agree. Yeah. This is laughable that the white cop didn't shoot first, but he's so bad at this that he actually gets shot 2 more times in slow motion, with enough time in between each one to maybe, I don't know, comprehend taking a shot back. And it's not until after he gets shot the 3rd time, when he's definitely going to die now, that he decides to finally take aim and shoot. And would you believe it, when he actually takes a shot, he gets a headshot. He kills this guy in the back of the head while he's running away. Which for the record is actually still excessive, because like just shoot him in the leg or something. No, he shoots him in the back of the head and just completely kills the guy.
And the best part is the baby's reaction. At some point they like cut to the baby and the baby like has to look away because it's like too tragic for it.
So we cut to like
and you know, you think his partner would come out at some point, you know, like I know he's like getting donuts and everything, but you think maybe the first gunshot he might want to run out.
I mean, maybe I'll give it some credit and say it's in slow motion, so technically it's not really that much time. You know, it's
sure.
It's a couple of seconds.
It does feel very long,
but it feels in the movie. It feels very long because everything's in slow motion, so it takes ages. But I like. There's so much time between the first shot and the second shot, and then the second shot to the third shot, where I'm like, why are you not firing? You're getting shot. This is the most justifiable time ever. And amusingly, like I say, he doesn't actually fire his gun until the guy's turned around and is no longer a threat.
Yeah. I also just like the idea, if you ask someone like, hey, what's one of the most memorable scenes from that Rumpelstiltskin movie? Be like, well, probably the cop shootout.
Yeah, I know. Or the bike chase.
Yeah.
So they go to the hospital. He does not make it. The surgeon has to come out and say sorry, but there was incredible amounts of sperm in his system. Yeah, he had to die. That was a callback to a bonus movie we did. Check out the Incubus review for why I said that. So we cut ahead some months, and she's coping with being a single mother. Her friend, who I can only describe as being that guest star that would be on a sitcom with a really annoying voice. Who would want to never come back again, but should be there to be the annoying friend for one episode. That's the best friend in this movie.
I don't know her the exact character's name, but they might as well have just called her I Need a Man, because like everything she says is basically like, I need a man. It's always like, ooh, well, hey, I'd like to meet a man there, or ooh, hey, I'd love to wish for a man, or ooh, hey, well, if we go to an exotic strip club, you know.
Yeah, there's lots of jokes about her. Oh, I think I dated him. Oh, I think I dated that one.
Yeah.
Oh, I think, yeah, you know, I went on this date once, this happened. I went on this date once, that happened. Like, that's all she's talking about. She's like, yeah.
It's another thing that just makes me laugh, because it's just like, so a lot of the humor in this like makes me laugh at, not that it's good, but just at how bad it is. And like there's like a weird like misplaced kind of like sitcom-y like humor that like you said, yeah, you know, she's looking at like a like, you know, an old stone artifact of like some gargoyle or something, and she says like, yeah, I think I used to date him. Like you can hear like the sitcom canned laughter that would have appeared like after that.
No, it's exactly what it is.
And I love that it's like, okay, the baby looks relatively young and everything, so I'm assuming that this is probably just a few months after she gave birth, because she's 8 months pregnant at the start of the movie. So let's say this is, I don't know, like maybe 3 or 4 months after, I don't know. But like I like that, you know, the friend's way of like helping her friend is like, whose husband has just been like brutally murdered, and she's like has to raise a child all her own, that she's like, let's go to this weird occult shop.
Which, by the way, this weird occult antique shop they go to, they come in, and the woman who runs it is this like short, like big haired woman who's always smoking a cigar, who says that they're always closed and that nothing's for sale, but then lets them look anyway, and then haggles with them. The whole thing's a very weird experience. But she's drawn to the Rump's rock, right? The Rump rock. And she buys it. And of course, she just happens to be like holding it when she's like reminiscing about her husband. She has this tear fall down her face, which activates it. So the wish that she makes about her husband coming back for just one night happens. He shows up that night. And here's the thing, I have to ask you a question. Why does this woman at no point stop and say, hey, my dead husband came back to life? That's weird. Maybe I should question that.
I'm assuming like maybe she thought it was like a dream or something, or I don't know. She's just so caught up in the emotions of it all that she doesn't really have time to comprehend it.
She doesn't really comprehend it afterwards, though. She still kind of treats it just as, oh, well, I guess that happened. My dead husband came back and we had sex, which, again, as I said earlier, I'm pretty sure that the rump is really what was driving the body there, as it were. So I think the rump got him some.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's a little creep. So here's my so Rumpelstiltskin eventually shows up here, right? And he's like, "Oh, time, give me the baby John." Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, he's in the shower when we first see him.
Here's a question: why does he sound like just such a normal dude? It was actually distracting to me that he wasn't even putting on like a voice. He wasn't going for anything like creepy sounding, or he sounded like such a normal modern day dude, despite the fact that of course he constantly makes little like references to like, oh, look at the horse carriage when he's looking at the car, or
it's like it's very strange. Like there's a running thing where he doesn't know like what vehicles are. He always just calls them like horseless steeds.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time he knows how to like drive them.
Yeah,
like,
he's doing a really good job at driving that big tanker that he gets at one point. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I like, as someone who has not learned to drive, right? He does not have a driver's license. Like, I should be able to do better just because I understand the concept of how driving works. But even
exactly.
I would have a rough start of like, okay, they're getting it going and, you know, getting in gear and all the other little details that you just learn when you're driving. Flawless. He does it flawlessly.
But to kind of answer your question, I'm assuming that the person who was playing Rumpelstiltskin, that they either weren't used to or were having trouble with the costume, and maybe that's why he just sounds like kind of normal or something. But because like any scene with him when he's like walking around or stuff, it seems like he's kind of having like a little bit of trouble. Like there's a scene where he's walking to the truck and like hopping in and like jumping up to it, and it seems like it takes forever just because it's like, I don't know, he's having trouble moving around or something.
Yeah, he's kind of hunched over all the time, so I don't know if they cast someone who was shorter or if this is just someone who's like, you know, literally hunching over the entire time to create the effect. But
this is why we need the 4K Blu-ray so we can see the making of special features.
I think I'm happy not knowing, if I'm perfectly honest.
Okay.
Just, you know, the trash movie can stay in the trash where it belongs, perhaps, is the statement I may give.
How dare you?
Absolute garbage, as Tim coined once on this very show.
Hey, I had a lot more fun with this movie than a lot of the other movies we've done.
I mean, I'll give it that. I laughed a bit, at least, at some stuff.
Did you watch this by yourself, or did you watch it on stream? Or
I watched it on stream, so there was a lot of jokes flying around, which made it a bit better.
This is definitely a movie that I feel like, it might be a little hard by yourself, but at least with friends, I think it can be kind of a fun watch. Yeah.
Hell, I might even say it's more fun than Leprechaun.
Interesting. One of the things I think is kind of funny is exactly like how powerful is Rumpelstiltskin supposed to be? Because like sometimes it seems like he can do like crazy magic, and sometimes it seems like,
on this subject, because I was questioning, I see in the first chunk of the movie when he first shows up and he's chasing after around the house to get baby John, I actually said he doesn't feel that intimidating because it doesn't feel like he has any powers. He's like a normal dude chasing her around, and she's hitting him with bats, she's hitting him with vases, whatever, and every single time it's putting him down, and all I could think was, so he has no extra strength or speed or magic powers. But then later on in the movie, he starts just making things happen, and I'm like, wait, he has leprechaun powers all of a sudden? Like,
but then he also just does stuff like, he just snaps the best friend's neck.
Yes.
Like he doesn't like try to do anything like any crazy kill or something. It's just like jump, snap.
Yeah, it's really inconsistent with like what he can do and like how powerful he is. I agree.
I do think it's kind of funny though, because we don't see it in horror movies that often, like a villain that can get beat up. Because I feel like so many movies, it's like, the monster is like unstoppable up until the end, and then you have to have some big crazy thing to kill him. I like that this is like a guy you can kind of kick around. I think it's funny.
Potentially. I suppose I agree with that in theory. I tell you, so they get away and kind of, what did they do to him to sort of have him be gone for a while? I can't remember, but she actually calls the police, and I'm like, how are you going to explain any of this? All right, you can tell them that some little man was trying to steal your baby, but Like, what are you going to explain? And I actually recognise an actor here. One of the cops, sort of the chubbier cop who comes to sort of investigate this, that she knows. Because she knows all these people because her husband was a cop, obviously, so she's friends with a lot of them. He was actually on an episode, believe it or not, of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He was an archaeologist in season 2, in the season 2 two-part finale, Becoming.
Oh, cool.
Yes, he met with Giles once and then got killed by vampires. It was this whole thing.
Okay.
But I recognized him. He was in a couple of other things, but that's definitely where I know him from. So
yeah, I think I saw him and I was like, oh yeah, that's like a character actor I've seen before.
Yeah, you've definitely seen him kicking around. And apparently the gypsy woman, I assume that's in the past. She was the woman from Third Rock from the Sun, the one who owns the house.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, Mrs. Dubček.
Dubček.
Yeah, that's her name. Yeah, there you go. I even recognized her. I recognized her photo on IMDb when I was looking over. I was like, wait, she was in that? But obviously she had like weird, hair and makeup or whatever to look different. So, yeah. I mean, okay. So eventually the Rump shows, the Rump, the Rump shows back up. Shut up. The Rump shows back up. And we get what turns out to be essentially a road movie from this point on, because she's in her car and she's driving off, and the Rump ends up stealing some guy's motorbike. I mean, she runs over the Rump a couple of times first. That does happen, but then he steals some guy's motorbike. He's like, "Oh, I like your steed," and he kills the guy and takes his motorbike. So we get this extended sequence of him riding a motorbike with sunglasses on. And so I wasn't necessarily thinking Terminator yet. I wasn't thinking Terminator till the oil tanker, because then that felt really Terminator. Because then, like, okay, all this chase stuff feels like it's right out of Terminator 1 and 2. But so we get this extended sequence, and he's chasing after her in the motorbike, and then yeah, go on, give your thoughts.
Oh well, it really makes me laugh because she's driving away and she hits a fire hydrant, and then he's driving on his bike. And one thing that always got me is anytime they cut to him, he has to say something, even though like there's no one around. But like, they'll cut to him and he'll be on the bike and he'll be like, "I'm coming for you, Johnny." Like, "Don't worry, baby Johnny, Uncle Rump's coming for you." And it's like, who's he talking to? Like, it's just like, I don't know, it's just strange. But then so the fire hydrant is going off, and then as he rides his bike through it, he totally wipes out and just like tumbles onto the ground. It's just it honestly might be like one of the hardest I've laughed in like a really, really long time.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, Timmy. I'm glad.
But then of course from there, that's when the truck comes up and he kills the truck driver or whatever. He's got an oil tanker, of course, just so we know there's going to be an explosion at some point, because which is crazy, because I thought like surely this movie must have had a small budget that they can explode an oil tanker.
Not only the oil tanker, there's a point later on when he's chasing them in the tanker. There's like a guy, like the boat like get disconnected from the truck, and the tanker drives through the boat, and the boat explodes. And I was like, why did the boat explode? Like, was there much fuel in the boat for it to explode?
Yeah,
it's a small wooden boat with an engine. Like, it's not that much.
That's crazy that we haven't even talked about like maybe the second lead in this.
Oh yeah, so I want to rewind because we have to, because there's a scene early on that sets him up before he like very randomly appears in the main plot of the movie. So early on in the movie, there's a scene, I think it's just after we've time jumped after the death of the husband, and the main character Shelley's with her baby, and her friend comes over, and she's got and this is the thing, Shelley's got the TV on, right, and she's got this trashy mid-90s thing. It's like a Jerry Springer looking talk show, except that it's not like an issue show. It's just a sleazy guy. He's got like 5 models up on the stage, and he's just making really misogynistic jokes about them, and asking about who's got real boobs, and he's asking all this trashy stuff. And so the friend comes in and says, "Oh, hey, you're watching this, I kind of like him." And Shelley goes, "No, I think it's disgusting. Like he's such filth." And all I could, You had the channel on. Why were you watching it? You were the one watching this when you were feeding the baby. It made no sense to me. Why was she watching it? It's not like the friend came in and turned on and says, "Oh, my show's on. I want to watch my favourite." You know, I think he's funny. Maybe this is why she's always got such bad dates in relationships, because she likes guys like this.
Maybe, but I mean, at the time, there's a lot less channels and stuff to watch. Maybe she just had it on because of whatever. But what I think is funny about this is, like you're saying, yeah, it is like a Jerry Springer show, but normally on that show you would have like the person talking and then the guest would be fighting or interrupting or yelling and screaming. This is like bizarre because it is just like a bunch of women in bikinis that are just like standing there frozen as he's like insulting them up and down. And
notably, they never say anything. Like he keeps kind of asking questions, but we never actually get to hear them answer one. What does he say to him? He says like, you know, which one of you lost your virginity first? I guess whichever one was the slowest runner. Like, just weird jokes like that. Like, Jesus. What? So, out of nowhere, right? When so after she's gotten away from the rump when he was on the bike, she's on this sort of dirt road out by a hill, sort of middle of nowhere, and her car breaks down. She's sort of waving people down for help, and who pulls over but this sleazeball? This I think Max, I think his name is
Max, I believe played by Tommy Blaze.
Tommy Blaze, what a name. He pulls over and he actually doesn't want to help her. He's a scumbag. He's like, oh no, I can't have a baby in my truck. I don't want to help you. I'm not giving you a free ride. But she kind of just forces him to anyway, and puts the baby in the truck and says drive. And I
guess out of everyone, he's like the character that has an arc in this movie.
He does, because by the end of the movie, he cares and wants to help. Yeah. So he does have an arc, as poor as it may be. So we get the rump chasing him in a tanker. Honestly, from here, the movie kind of blurs together for the most part. They end up at like a small abandoned restaurant or diner, and they're just kind of hiding out.
What's great about this is, I mean, we all know California is, famously not busy, especially like, when it comes to stuff like highways and traffic. So, there's virtually never anyone else on the road. And like, they go to this like restaurant off the side of the road, which, again, absolutely no one there. I think they say it's abandoned, but it's like, usually if it's abandoned, though, it'll be like boarded up and they won't have stuff in there. Like, it still has like food and like everything in there. It's kind of strange, but it feels like there's virtually no one else in existence in this movie until like they're like, oh yeah, no, we need to go to a location with more people.
Yeah, because they end up getting arrested soon after this, because they so a cop showed up at one point to help, and the rump kills the cop. Right? So, and afterward, this is when the tanker gets destroyed. This is probably before they get to this building, because they.
I'd say this movie like hates cops.
Oh yeah. So the tanker ends up going over the cliff or whatever, and the rump gets out and he's all burned. And this is actually where I really started cracking Terminator jokes, because it really reminded me of like the Terminator after he'd been in an explosion, like all being bloody, because he starts ripping off like the layer of skin that's all burned, and then he's fine. But it was really giving me some of those visuals. But because they take the cop car after the cop dies, they're kind of, they're on the run with a cop car, and this cop is dead. So of course they're wanted, and so they get arrested and they're in a jail cell, and of course the rump shows up at the jail cell, and I'm like, there's even a scene where he comes into a police station and starts killing cops, like Terminator.
Yeah. It's not shy about its influences, for sure.
But of course the rump gets the baby, because the baby's separate from them at this point. And and by now Max is willing to help Shelley try and get the baby back. So they do a bit of research and find out that straw is what kills it. They want to talk to the woman from the shop or whatever.
Yeah, she calls her with her one
phone call
or whatever she gets at the station, and then I think she just kind of shows up. Like they're driving away and she's just all of a sudden in the back seat.
Yes, yeah, she kind of appears. So we get this big showdown when they're going to the cemetery or whatever it is, where the rump is going to do his ceremony to whatever he does with the babies once he gets them. It's
he doesn't have a soul of his own, so he needs the souls of children.
yes,
Or babies, I guess.
yes, I guess
The baby Johnny in this case.
the baby Johnny, yes. And
I just like saying that because every time you see the Rump, he has to talk about the baby Johnny.
so yeah, we get a whole scene where they use straw, which is his weakness, combined with it. But there's a whole thing where eventually there's a tractor involved. Max is driving a tractor at him,
like a tractor with hay that scoops him up, and then I think like hits like a telephone pole and gets electrocuted and then on fire.
It's very over the top. There's a chain reaction of events here that really goes wacky. So, I mean, I don't know what you want. I mean, they kind of walk off, and at this point, Shelley's like, "Oh, hey, maybe you're not so bad." And they kind of imply that they're going to have a date or something. Because I
hope so.
She saw the real human being in him. What do you mean you hope so? Yeah. No, you don't, Tim. You don't hope.
They have chemistry.
You don't hope for that.
I think they have chemistry. I don't know what to tell you. When they're like, going back and forth in the car and at the police station, I can see sparks, honestly.
Oh, that's what this movie is to Tim. A romance for the ages. The greatest romance in cinematic history is what Tim thinks of this.
I mean, honestly, kinda. I mean, you have like a woman. I mean, it is classic rom-com stuff where you have like a woman who's trying to get over her ex, and then she meets this guy that she hates at first and thinks he's so disgusting, but then they kind of grow to feel for each other and get a sense of one another, and yeah, I don't know what to tell you. That's classic rom-com 101 right there.
I can't believe. Because the bike thing happens. It's okay. I knew the bike thing was coming because Tim teased it with a photo like a while ago. But when he shows up in the tanker and it was still a car chase, I'm like, this has been continuously a road chase movie for the past like 30 minutes. I was not expecting that of Rumpelstiltskin.
And we didn't even talk about like the music they play during the chase.
Oh, go on then.
There's like this one song. I should try to see if you can download it somewhere. But it's just like this guy going, "This is my kind of world." I don't know like what it is, but I love it.
Oh, of course you do. I hold you personally responsible for this. I want you to know that. I also hold the patrons responsible as well. You're all culpable in me having to watch this. In fact, to the point where several of our patrons who were present for the stream when I was watching this and were watching along with said, and I quote, "I apologize for voting for this." That was uttered multiple times.
Yeah, I think they weren't able to finish their sentence. They say, "I apologize for not voting for this sooner." That's what they meant to say.
Oh dear.
I mean, I don't know what else you want. I mean, you got your classic bad guy. You got your classic final girl, scream queen in Shelley. Yeah, he got some classic kills. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. This is a 90s horror staple, honestly.
The best friend character was in Maniac last year or 2 years ago now on Netflix. That show with Jonah Hill and Emma Stone. I knew I knew her face for something.
Elijah Wood one.
No, not the Elijah Wood movie. No.
Oh, okay.
No, that's one we'll do in the show at some point. But no.
Cool.
Not that. You know you want to do
it. We'll see.
You do.
I do. I want to do the original because I've actually never seen it before.
Well, that's a good twofer then, isn't it? We can do those back to back some point.
I have it on my Shudder queue, but I haven't watched it because I know like 3 weeks after I watch it, you're gonna be like, "Oh, let's do it." I'm like, I just watched it. All right. Saving it.
That happens sometimes.
Too often.
Look, I'll be honest, right? I'll be honest.
Hell yeah.
Rumpelstiltskin is occasionally entertaining as a bad movie. I think, unfortunately, it does stop being entertaining too much in the second half. The second half really drones on. But that first half, the policeman's death, the first appearance of Rump, the wish, the motorbike stuff. That first half is pretty entertaining as a bad movie. The second half slows down and it's not as laugh a minute as it was. So, but as far as movies go that you have sat there and praised incorrectly, this is definitely the most tolerable of them.
Oh, there you go. That's good praise. Yeah, I guess it kind of just sucks that it's not like a franchise. Like, I wish we could say this is the start of like,
the sequel bit at the
Rump
end.
2.
There's a little girl who picks up the stone after it's been thrown in the water. We get a sequel bit at the end.
Which, like, it's it's kind of funny because, like, everyone seems like, I guess you put it a good way, like, they're drawn to the stone, even though it's like, it's pretty hideous. It's not like something you just kind of pick up and be like, ooh, can we bring this to the house? But like, ooh, no.
No, that's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. So I
think it's like really. Oh, and actually, one scene I do want to talk about real quick.
Oh, go on.
When he kills the cop in, like after he gets out of the truck in such a weird way. He takes his head off. And he says, like, here, let me help you. And then, like, raises his head with his hands and then, like, bites the cop on the neck. But, like, it's so weird because it's just like, all right, well, like, why don't, like, surely there must have been something easier you could have done. Like, jump up and bite him or, like, jump up and snap his neck or, I don't know, just put your hand through him or whatever. But I just find it so strange that he's like, no, I'm going to take off my own head and then bite you with it.
I don't have a good answer for you.
But then it is funny though, because then she I forget if it's Shelly or Max who hits him, but then his head goes flying, and then later his body has to find it again, which was very funny.
Yes, his head's having to shout directions to your left, to your right, one step there, so on.
I do kind of. I think it's funny when you can tell like they just don't know what to do with a character. Like, all right, do we want him to be like funny? Do we want him to be like scary? Do we want him to be like powerful or silly? Like, I feel like, it seems like inconsistent, like what he can do and how he acts and stuff. But which to me, I just think is hilarious. Also, the scene. There's a part early on where I think it's like when she's running away from him in the house, and for whatever reason he decides the best way to get to her is by like thrusting himself out the window. And like I say that because it's not like it doesn't look like he jumps through the window, like that is what he does, but it's like in such a weird way where like it looks like someone like had to pick him up and throw him. But that also makes me laugh.
Yeah. I have no more words to say. That it's ridiculously 90s, although it looks like it was made in the 80s, to be honest. From the visuals alone. So I guess it's behind its time. It feels like it's 10 years late in a lot of ways. No? Not agree with that? Okay. Surprising amount of car stunts, though, and explosions for a movie of its type. I mean, we sometimes talk about VOD movies now not having the budget to do a bit of blood sometimes, and this movie's doing, boats exploding and tankers exploding and all sorts of things.
Yeah. Oh, man.
You almost wonder if like the reason why the movie was made is because they knew like someone with the tanker they were allowed to blow up. And I was like, oh, okay. Rather than because it was a natural thing to put in the script, it's like, no, I know someone who'll let us blow up the tanker. Oh well, we're putting that in there, baby.
And it's also like not like it's not very graceful the way it blows up. Like like I feel like most movies they would like have it going off this big cliff and it would like follow the bottom and have this big explosion. This it's like it's not like it falls off a cliff. It's more like it's driving down it. Yeah. Like just kind of a little haphazardly, and then it kind of gets to the end and like I think it might hit a tree or something and it explode.
Yeah. All All right, I think we're at the point now, Tim. We're going to rate this bad boy. I don't think there's anything left to discuss.
Yeah. So let's rate it.
Take it away. What we giving it?
Yeah, this is a unfortunately underseen 90s gem of again the fairy tale but evil horror subgenre. It's again it's certainly wearing its influences on its sleeves, but I think you called it a knockoff, which I guess technically is true, but like so many movies start off as being like a knockoff that then go on to something else, like like Friday the 13th is just like, oh, what is this, a new Halloween movie? But it's like, no, it ends up becoming its own thing. And I think this is similar, where you think that this is just like a Leprechaun meets Terminator kind of movie, but I think it ends up becoming wholly original, and it's just absolutely batshit crazy. Like, there's so much of this movie that you could describe to someone that just does not sound real, which I just love when movies have that. So unfortunately, there is a few things that hold it back from being like amazing or phenomenal. So I can't give it a perfect score, but I think I'll give it a 7.5. It's a hell of a lot of fun. If you can find it, I know it's tough, but if you do get the chance to watch it, especially if you like cheesy bad movies, I think it'll be right up your alley. I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, I was just entertained as heck when I watched it.
Right. Sometimes I wonder if you believe half the shite that spouts out of your mouth. 4 out of 10.
Not bad.
Nope. I guess the 4 because it was laughably bad, and a lot of the stuff in the first half there was humor to be had. Obviously it's not good. I mean, the direction is really over the top and kind of silly, but at least it has someone who is trying to do something, which maybe it's just because I'm so sick of like modern VOD movies like just being the opposite, where no one's trying to do anything. It's just here's shot, reverse shot, shot, reverse shot, wide shot, shot, reverse shot. Looking at you, Killer Kate. Anyway, so 4 out of 10. Tim, you don't say hell yeah after a 4 out of 10, right? That's just it's not a hell yeah moment.
I missed a 10 part. I thought it was 4 out of 5.
So that has been Rumpelstiltskin. So yes, so look forward to more Screams After Midnight. Of course, you can let us know what you think of Rumpelstiltskin in the comments below. If you've seen it, you can like and subscribe. It does help out us a lot. It lets YouTube know that what you want is to share us out into the world, and more people will find us. And so please do like. And you can of course get us on Twitter at Screams Midnight. Patreon, we mentioned earlier, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. In fact, we're starting a new thing actually. $10 patrons and up are going to have a new vote starting I think this month, depending on when this goes up, where a Screams movie will be up against an Ace movie versus a Flux movie, and the winner will get reviewed on said show. So that is something that's starting very soon, so look forward to that. But that is that. Check out other stuff that we've got coming up, and just keep your eyes and ears peeled onto that subscription box or whatever you use to consume this content, which we will continue to deliver throughout 2020 at our time of quarantine.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm doing. You know what? This movie's destroyed me, okay? The movie's wrecked me. I'm not thinking clearly. It's that time where I have to quickly go get something to eat after we're done, because you've just completely baffled me. But that has been Screws After Midnight, so thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, guys, and we'll see you next time.